Alex, the IDF, they say they've carried out a shooting after suspects approached forces in Gaza. What are you learning about that?
Well, I think the kind of takeaway from that is it demonstrates how fragile this ceasefire is. This from the Israeli military. They claim that they saw a number of suspects approaching and crossing the yellow line. This is the area that they've withdrawn to within the Gaza Strip. As per the ceasefire agreement, they called out and then they opened fired on those suspects. They say it's a violation of the ceasefire agreement. I think it shows really how fragile this agreement is. We are now a few days into it. The rest of the peace plan, of course, that Donald Trump has put in place is pretty vague. But I think that the hope now is that it can move beyond this and move to a second stage and a more comprehensive peace. That, though, will be the very difficult part of the work. It has bedeviled diplomats for decades, reaching a broader peace. And you have to remember that all of the underlying roots and causes of this conflict very much remain today, as they did yesterday and as they did the day before that. I think the big things really that are going to be very difficult to overcome are who's going to run the Gaza Strip, who's going to govern it, who's going to rebuild it, and disarming Hamas. All questions that still need to be answered.
Also, the other line to get your thoughts on, Alex, the Israeli military also confirming the identity of 2 of the 4 bodies of dead hostages that they received yesterday. So we're getting more details there.
Yeah, so under the ceasefire agreement, as well as the 20 living hostages which emerged from Gaza yesterday, 28 of the bodies, the remains of the hostages who died in captivity, were supposed to also have been released as well. Only 4 came out yesterday. We have the names of 2 of them. They came out in caskets. There was a short memorial service by rabbis for them before they were transported to the National Forensic Unit here in Israel for the process of identification. Now, the Israelis say that process can take up to a couple of days. It was obviously much quicker in the case of these men who have now been identified by the Israelis. The first is Guy Illouz. He was abducted from the Nova Festival. He managed to escape a little bit, but was kidnapped and died from the injuries that he sustained, according to the Israeli authorities. The other man who's been identified after these forensic examinations is Nepalese citizen Bipin Joshi. He was in a shelter in Kibbutz Alamim, that's in southern Gaza, when he was taken, again dying from his wounds. I think the conclusion there is that he was murdered in captivity. But this process, of course, of the remains coming back is still very difficult for the hostages' families. They, of course, want to be able to carry out proper burials, and until that happens, it will be very hard for them, despite the celebrations across Israel for the return of the 20 living, for them to get closure.